Hello, I hope you are doing well. I am doing great. Thanks for asking. Welcome to JATL, just another to-do list. It's literally not going to be any different from any other to-do list that you have seen. It's just that you might learn new concepts, and I hope you do. So I'm going to be building it using ambiorix, and then I'll use sqlite, and of course I'm a huge fan of bootstrap. So for the front end, I'll use bootstrap, and it's going to be a basic to-do list. Create an item, edit an item, delete an item, all like it's a crude application, and that's all there is to it. You can never get tired of creating to-do lists, right? Okay, let's get to it. So I'm going to cd into my projects directory, then I'll create a directory here, and we are going to call it jatl. Then let's get into jatl, start a new tmax session. So we'll say tmax new session and call it jatl. By the way, tmax allows you to split your terminal into multiple panes, windows, whatnot, right? So now we are inside of jatl. Let's start with a hello world program, right? I mean, what even is an application if you don't start with a hello world program? So let's do nvim index.r, and then here we are going to import something from ambiorix. So from ambiorix, I want to get ambiorix with a capital A. I want you to get me ambiorix with a capital A. So that is the class. And then I want you to get something from HTML tools. So from HTML tools, give me tags and tag list, right? And then let's create a handler for get requests at slash. So home get will be a function of request response. And then we are just going to do res subset send the HTML, and the HTML will be tags subset h3 hello world. Then let's add some small function documentation here, and this is going to be handle get at slash, right? And then we of course would like this to be exported. Then let's create an instance of an ambiorix application. So app will be ambiorix of capital A subset new, and then we are going to do app subset get at slash. So this means all get requests at slash will be handled by home get, and then app subset start. Let's start the application on port 3000, right? That's it. That's our hello world program. Let's run it. So our script index.r, we have it running. Let's visit 3000, and here we go. We have the hello world. But then we didn't come here for the hello world. We came here for a to-do list. So for the to-do list, let's start with the backend. Let's start with a database, right? So I'm going to create a new file on the same level as index.r, and this new file, I'll call it db.r, right? And then let's open db.r in our editor. The very first thing I am going to do, since I am going to be working with databases, so I'll do box use, and I want to import from dbi, I want to import db connect. Obviously db is connect. And then how do you make requests using dbi? You use functions like db execute, and the other one is db get query, right? So that's all we need from dbi. But since we are also going to be using sqlite, we need something from r sqlite. So this is r sqlite, and the function I need from r sqlite is the function called sqlite, which is the driver used by dbi, right? This looks about okay for the imports. Let's go to the function creation. The first one is of course the one connecting us to the database, and we are just going to say connect to the jatl database, right? Database. Then of course we will want to export this. It doesn't take any arguments, so it's function called connect, doesn't take any arguments, and what it does is db connect, and then we pass in the driver. In this case, the driver, we've said it's sqlite, right? And then we pass in the db name. In our case, we want the db name to be jatl.sqlite. So that's the connect. Then of course, out of habit, I'm going to have a function called disconnect. So it's going to be a function which takes the connection, and all it does is call db disconnect, where the con is the con, like we are just disconnecting from that connection, right? Okay, and then let's just have some small function documentation as usual. So this is going to be disconnect from the given database connection. And now we also want this to be exported, and at paramcon, this will be the database connection, right? So the database connection, and it's of course a required argument. So we have it as, oh god, I can't type today, required, right? Okay, so now we have a function to connect us to the database, and another function which, when given the connection, disconnects us from the database. After that, what we need is, well, table creation, right? We need a table in the database. So what I am going to do is, in fact, actually, would it not be better when connecting to the database, we also create the table if it doesn't exist, right? I mean, I think that would make much more sense. So here, we'll only have one table in our to-do list, and the table is going to have two columns. One is the TID, the to-do list item ID, and the second one is, well, the item itself, right? So yeah, that's literally it. So what I want is, actually, since this is like a really simple application, when connecting, so this is the connection, let's have it as that. And then when you're connecting me to that database, just check if this table already exists. If it doesn't, I want you to recreate it, right? Or rather, to create it, not recreate. I want you to create it. So we are going to have a query here, and the query will be very simple, right? So we are going to say create table if not exist. Create this table. If it doesn't exist, the table will be called jatl, right? So create table if not exist, jatl, and then what is jatl going to have is the columns. We've said we only need two columns, right? We need the TID, which is the to-do item ID. Actually, can I get a better name for this? Instead of TID, why not just go with ID? I mean, ID, yeah, ID is, is better. Let's leave the whole TID thing. So let's go with ID. So this is going to be an ID, and then this is the primary key. But aside from being the primary key, it's of type text. I prefer going with text. I mean, I am going to use UUID for the ID column, right? You can use integers if you like, but my preferred way of going about this is the UUIDs. So this is a column which is of type text. It's also the primary key, but we have to set not null, right? Now you are like, why is this lunatic setting a not null, and yet he's already specified that ID is the primary key? Now the thing is, with SQLite, primary key can actually have null values. And in fact, let's check this from the documentation of SQLite. So I am going to search for primary key, right? And if we scroll down to the documentation of primary key, I want you to take a look at this last paragraph. And it says, according to the SQL standard, primary key should always imply not null. So your assumption of, well, a primary key cannot be null is correct according to the SQL standard. But unfortunately, due to a bug in some early versions, this is not the case in SQLite. Unless the column is an integer primary key, or the table is a without row ID table, or a strict table, or the column is declared not null. See, so I have to explicitly declare my column as not null since I am using a text ID column, right? SQLite allows null values in a primary key column. SQLite could be fixed to conform to the standard, but doing so might break some legacy applications. Hence, it has been decided to merely document the fact that SQLite allows nulls in most primary key columns, right? So now, coming back here, in fact, actually, let's do that practically, right? So let's create a random SQLite DB. So we are going to say SQLite 3, and then let's just call it random.sqlite, right? We are now inside the database and interactively. What I want us to do is create a dummy table. So let's say I want you to create table. Let's call it random, right? And table random has two columns. It has an ID column, which is the primary key. And then it has another column. Let's just call it item. So item, which is text, not null. Yeah, item, which is text, not null. And in fact, that is it about the item. So for the primary key, let's also have it as text, right? If now we run that, now we've created the table. Let's try inserting something. Let's try inserting a record and have null for the primary key, and it's literally going to work. So let's do, I want you to insert into random, insert into random. And the values that I want you to insert for the ID, let's have null. And then for the item, let's have moavu, right? Yeah, I just ran it and there are no errors. So that literally works. So if I try to do a select star from random, you see that the first column is null, but well, the second column has a value. So in SQLite, the primary key, you have to explicitly say it should not contain nulls. Well, if you're not using, if you're not using the integer primary keys, right? So in my case, since I'm using text, I have to do create, for example, create table random2, which takes an ID, which is text, primary key, and then I have to state not null, and then item, which is text, not null. And then now when I try inserting into random2, and I try passing null for the primary key and moavu for the second, now this should give us an error. So now we are getting a pass error. What did I do? Oh, okay. I may insert into insert, not that error, not the pass error, not the pass error. We should be getting a runtime error. So insert into random2 values. We are talking about null and then moavu. So you see, we get a runtime error and it says not null constraint failed for random2.id. So there you have it. So for SQLite, if you're using anything else apart from integer primary keys, you have to make sure that you specify not null for the primary key. And in my case, yes, I am using text. Okay. So you have the ID, and then we have the ID, and then the second thing that I want is, of course, the item. So the item is as well going to be text, and we're just going to have not null. So the query for the table creation is complete. So we are going to create this table if it doesn't exist. Every time we run this connection, if the table doesn't exist, then I want you to create it. And yeah, that's it. Now we are going to execute this query. So we are going to do db execute, the connection will be the connection, and then the query will be, no, the statement, actually the statement will be the query. Yep, so this is going to create that table if it doesn't exist, and then at the end of the day, for my function, I want to return the connection. So that's the create table, no, that's the connect function, which by default creates the table. We can test it. Let's try testing it and see if it works. So what we are going to do is ls, no, we don't need the random.sqlite. It was a test, so we remove random.sqlite, and then I want you to fire up R, and what I want you to do is box use, and I want to get all exported functions from the db file. So where I am /db, and I want you to get everything that db file which is exported. So I can now run con will be connect, right? And if we run it, it ran without errors. But since we created a table in the DB, then that means that SQLite file was created. So let's do an ls. And there you go. So we have jatl.sqlite. And if we hop into the file, so SQLite sqlite3 jatl, if we say .tables, right? If we say that .tables, you can see that we have the jatl table there. And if you can try and check, well, what is this table composed of? Like, what is the table information? Or rather, how does the table look generally? We can just do pragma table info, and then we pass in the name of the table. In this case, we are talking about jatl. Okay, I forgot the semicolon. So you can see that this table is, it has ID and item, just like we said. So I think we are done there. Now, next thing after connecting and disconnecting, the other thing we want is, how do we read an item? Because we are doing CRUD, right? Create, read, update, and delete. How do we read a to-do item from our database? So we are going to create a function for reading. So read a to-do item, right? And it's going to take what? It's going to take the ID of the item. So at param ID, this is a string, right? And this string is required, obviously, since it's the ID. And this function, we want it to return a data frame. Well, I mean, that record, right? And it's, of course, exported. But then, before we do the read to do item, let's first do, actually, you can just do the read. I mean, we are already here, so why not, right? So read item, it's going to be a function which takes the ID. And what is it going to do? All I want to do is, I want you to select everything from the table jatl, where in our JTL we have ID. So where ID is equals to question mark. So this question mark is for parameterizing the query so that we don't have SQL injections. So I want you to select everything from jatl where the ID is equals to that. And then we are going to execute this query using db get query. And then, of course, we need a connection, right? And then the statement, which is the query. But for this one, we need something more. Since we said we are parameterizing the ID, that means we need some parameters. And in our case, we only need one parameter, which is the ID, right? So first thing to notice is that in this, when reading the item, we have used this function called db-get-query, but when creating, we used db-execute. So the main difference between db-execute and db-get-query is that for db-execute, you use it when you don't expect that query to return anything to you. Okay, not exactly, because DB query does return the number of rows affected, but then if you are going to use something like insert into this table while returning, like you see, you have like you're returning something from that, what you need is DB get query, right? So anytime you want to use a select statement and what I've said before, insert into this table while returning etc, what you need is DB get query. But if you just want to execute a statement and not worry about like the return value, you almost always need DB execute. Okay, now that's out of the way. In this function, we need DB get query. And the function is kind of complete, but then you can see that here we are passing in the connection. So for the connection, we are going to define it here. So the connection is going to be connect. And we are going to say, once you exit this function, I want you to run this expression. The expression is going to be disconnect. And we are disconnecting that connection. And now our read item function is complete. We make a connection and then we say on exit, disconnect from the connection. So when you use on exit, obviously, it means when this function exits, whether successfully or by throwing an error, then I just want you to run this expression regardless of the exit status. And then we create the query and we run it. So by default, DB get query will return a data frame, and that's it. So that's the read item function. Let's talk about creating an item, right? So create a to-do item. And this is going to have just a single parameter, which is the description. And this is going to be a string. It's required. And let's just say this is the item. This is the item description. Yep, so we want it to return a data.frame. I mean, it will return a data.frame, and this is going to be the created record. And then you of course want it to be exported. And we are going to call it create item, which is a function which takes in the description. So obviously the first thing, we need the connection. So the connection will be connect, and then obviously we say on exit, I want you to run this expression. I want you to disconnect from that given connection. Then the query now is going to be, actually before the query, we first of all need to generate an UUID for this new item. So the ID for this new item, we are going to use a package called UUID. So I come here and I say from UUID, I want you to get me something, and I want you to get me UUID generate. So just to demo this on the console, if we do library UUID, and then I generate a single, so to generate a single UUID, you just call UUID generate. Okay, UUID generate, there you go. So every time you run it, it generates a new UUID for you. That's literally all the functionality we need from that function. So I can close this. Then we go back here on the create function. So the ID is going to be UUID generate. And then now we can talk about the query. So we want the query to be, it's an insert query. So I want you to insert into the jatl, and then we are saying that the values, in this case, we want to insert the ID and the item itself. So we are just going to pass those in as parameterized items to DBI. So we are saying insert into jatl, and these are the values. And then we are going to have a params, which is a list, right? And we are going to pass those items in the order that they're supposed to be passed into the database. So first we need the ID, and then secondly we need the description. Yeah, that's it. So now we are going to call db execute. The connection will be the connection, and then we pass in the statement. Statement will be the query, and then the parameters will be the params. So when you run this, that will insert the new record, but I want to return it, right? So I am going to say, I want you to read item, and then we pass in the ID. Yep, that's it. So we can now create an item, and we can also read it. Let's try this from the console. So again, I fire up R, and then I am going to do box use, and from that file called db, I want you to get me everything that's exported. And then I am going to try and create an item, right? So let's call this item A. So A is going to be create item, and the description is let's say call parents, right? So the creation went through, and since create item returns the new record, we can view it. So you can see that it has an ID, and the item itself is call parents. And of course we can try using read, but by default, if you think about it, the fact that create item worked means read item also works. But let's just try. So read item, and the ID will be, let's just copy this ID. So we will copy it, and then we'll just paste in there, and yeah, it works. So yeah, there you have it. So we have create item and read item. Now sometimes we will need to read all the items. So that's basically like reading the whole table, right? So I'm going to have a function. What am I going to call this? Okay, read all. Let's do read all to do items. And this function will not take anything, and it will return data.frame. We of course want this to be exported. So read all items. Yeah, let's just call it read all items, and it's going to be a function. Obviously the first thing we need is the connection, and I'm telling you on exit, I want you to run disconnect on that connection. And now to read all the items, it's basically a select star from jatl, right? Yeah, I can just do that, or I can use dbi's db read table, right? So if I just check the docs, so dbi db read table, so this just needs the table name. So we just need the connection and the table name, and that's it. So the connection will be the connection, and then the name is going to be jatl, which is the table name. Yeah, and that will read all the items from, well, all the rows, all the records from that table. So that's it. So we have create, we have read. Now let's talk about updating. What if you want to update a record, right? So update a to do item, update a to do item, and we want to return a data.frame, which is the updated record, right? And of course we want this to be exported. Now when updating, I will need you to give me the ID of that item. So I'm saying at param ID, this is a string, and it's of course required. This is going to be ID of the item to update. Okay, so now the function update item is going to be a function which takes in the ID and it runs a simple update query. So obviously, again, we need the connection. So I want you to connect. Then on exit, the expression is going to be disconnect on. And then the query here will just be, I want you to update jatl. Then we are saying update jatl. I want you to set the item to be equal to something where ID is equals to something, right? So we've said the question marks are just for parameterizing. So this reads update jatl. Then I want you to set the item to be equal to something where the ID is equals to something. Actually, this update item, it takes the ID and the new description. Wow, the new description. Okay, so it takes the ID and a new description, which is also a string, and it's required. Okay, so now what we need here is simply to call db. I'm going to call db execute. We pass in the connection, then the statement, which is the query, and of course we need the parameters, right? So for the parameters, let's define them. Obviously a list, and then it's going to be in the order in which we have defined our question marks. So at first we need the item, which is the new description, and then we need the ID, right? Then after this update, we are going to read the item back. So I want you to read item and we pass in the ID. And that's it. Now let's test this. So I'm going to fire up R, and then I am going to do, I want you to get me everything from the DB file, everything that's exported. And first of all, let's read all the items. Read all items. Error in db read table, could not find function db read table. Oh yeah, that's because I never imported it. So let's go to the top and we are going to import it. Okay, let's try this again. First of all, I am going to purge my cache. So box purge cache, and then I want you to just get me everything from that db file that's exported. Okay, let's try read all items again. Okay, so now we currently only have one item, which is of this ID. So let's copy this ID. In fact, let's just assign it to a variable here. And then we want to try and update this item to something else. So for example, let's say update item, the ID, and then the new description is going to be call dad instead of call parents. Let's have call dad, and there we go, it actually worked. So if we again read all the items, we are now getting call dad. Okay, so our update item is working. So now we have create, read, update, finally delete. Okay, so we are going to have delete a to do item, and this is only going to take the ID parameter. So it's going to be a string, which is required. And it's going to return, let's return a data.frame. Do I need to return a data.frame from this, or like, you know, a data.frame of the deleted item? Or should I just return, for consistency, let's just return the deleted item. Okay, so I want you to return a data.frame, which is the deleted record, right? Then let's export this, obviously. So we are going to say this is a delete item, which is a function of the ID. Obviously, we need the connection, so we connect, and on exit, we are telling it to disconnect from that connection. And then our query will be very simple here. We just want to delete from the jatl where the ID is equals to question mark, right? So delete from the jatl where ID is equals to this. Okay. And then we want to execute this. So db execute. So db execute. The connection will be the connection. The statement will be the query, and then the params, in this case, we're just going to have list ID. Okay, so this will execute this, but then we said we want to return the deleted record. So what we will do, yeah, what if the record is not deleted? Then it won't be read. Okay, yeah, I think it's still correct, kind of. So I'm going to read the item first. So the item is going to be, I want you to read the item where the ID is equals to ID. And then we now delete it. And finally, we return the item. Okay, so this looks about right. Let's test it out. So first of all, box purge cache, and then I'm going to do box. I'm going to use everything from the DB file, and I want anything that's exported, or rather everything that's exported. And now, first of all, let's read all items. So all items, obviously currently we only have one. Let's add a couple more. So let's say create item whose description is visit market. So now if we read all items again, we have this. Let's create another item. So let's say create item whose description is take a walk. So read all items. Okay, so now we have 3 items, and these are the IDs. Let's say we want to update this visit market to be something like road trip, right? So we are going to say update item, the ID, and then we are going to say the new description will be road trip. So that's updated. So again, if we read all the items, this is now road trip. Let's say we want to delete this take a walk item. So we will copy the ID, and then we are going to say delete item whose ID is this. And now, well, of course, it does return the deleted item. So now if we do read all items, we see that we now remain with 2. So our DB functionalities are complete. Yeah, that's it about like the DB functionalities. We have all the CRUD operations ready for use. So now we are going to turn to the index.r. So let's go to index.r, and now we can start building the UI. In the UI, we want this to be as simple as possible. We just want a place where we can create a new item. We need an edit button on an item, and then we need a delete button on an item. But before we get there, I obviously need to have Bootstrap with me. So the first thing, I am going to go to getbootstrap.com, go to the documentation, quick start, and this is exactly what I want. But I am not going to use the CDN. I almost always prefer having my CSS files locally. So what I will do is, in my project directory here, let's create a directory called public, right? And then now inside that public directory, so cd public, we can create a directory for bootstrap. So this is bootstrap 5.3.8. so I am going to say make dir bootstrap 5.3.8, and inside of that is where now we can have the bootstrap css and js files. So I'll copy this href, and when I copy it and paste it again on the browser, this is the bootstrap css. So I'm going to save it as, so we go to Mwavu, then we go to, this should be on projects. Okay, where are the projects? Okay, I'm just going to search. Oh god, where the hell are the projects? Oh god, I can't find the projects. Oh, here we go. Projects, jatl, and inside of public we have this bootstrap, so bootstrap.main.css. Save that. Okay, then we do the same for the js file. So we are going to copy, paste it on the browser, and then we are going to save this as bootstrap.bundle.main.js. We save it there. Okay, so now we have bootstrap ready, but we also need to tell ambiorix that for static resources, I need you to use the public directory. So for that, we are going to say app subset static. This is going to be like, we need to pass in the URI and the path. So the URI is like where in the application, where will you access, on which path will you access those files. So I want mine to be on /static. Then we are going to pass in the path to that folder. So in our case, that's just going to be public. And actually, we don't need the slash here. So we only need to have it as, we are passing in the URI and then the path, which is public. Okay. So this is telling ambiorix that in case you are looking for any static resources, that's the place to look for. Now, I need this boilerplate. So I'm going just to copy it, and that's going to be the general page, right? So this is a generic HTML page, right? And in this generic HTML page, we are going to have param dot dot dot, the ellipsis, and these are passed to the body of the document. Now, actually, let's first just create the function. We'll write the documentation later. So this is going to be a function. I will call it page. It's a function which takes the dots, and what it does is this, which we are going to convert in a bit. So we are saying this function just takes the dots, which, so for the dots, let's just say this are HTML tools tags, right? And they are optional, right? Okay, so those are HTML tools tags and they are optional, and this function returns at return HTML tools tags. And of course, I would like it to be exported. Okay, now it's time to change this to R code. So obviously, since we have a doc type, so here we have a doc type, and then now we have the HTML page starting there. It means we need to wrap this in a tag list. So we are going to say this is going to be a tag list, and the first thing we have there is HTML. So we are going to also get HTML from HTML tools, and this first HTML will, well, it will literally have the doc type. So this is just going to be doc type HTML, and then after that we are going to have tags subset HTML. We set the language to English, and then we have tags subset the head. Inside of the head we have a couple of meta tags, so we set the character encoding to UTF-8, and then another meta tag where we have the name will be viewport, then the content will be width, which is equals to device width, then the initial scale equals to 1. So after that we have the title, so tags subset the title. In our case the title is going to be a to-do list. Let's call it just another to-do list. Yeah. And then we are of course going to have our bootstrap CSS. So href in our case it's going to be /static, then /bootstrap 5.3.8 and /bootstrap.min.css. and then what else do we set here? Apart from the href, we also set the relationship, the rel style sheet, and that's all we need. So and then now after the head comes the body, so tags subset the body, and we pass in our dots there, and then finally at the end of the body we have the bootstrap JS. So tags subset script, and then we are passing in the src to be static bootstrap 5.3.8 /bootstrap .bundle.min.js. Okay, so the page is in fact complete, like the generic page of our website or web application, whichever you prefer. Now let's test it out. So we come to home get, and instead of just passing tags subset h3 hello world, we are going to wrap this in the page. So we say page and then we wrap this on that. So this tag subset h3 hello world will be passed to the body, to be passed to the dots, so right there. And then of course when we run this application now, the font will have changed, and then we'll check if we correctly imported the bootstrap JS and CSS. Okay, let's run it. So r script index dot cd first of all, and then r script. Let's run this, and there we go. So the font changed. The initial one was this, and we have this. Now let's check if we have any errors. No, we don't. So this is our imports are working as expected. Now in our home page, this is going to be pretty simple. So what I prefer is I just prefer having going to have a call to UI, and this is going to be the home page UI, and then we are going to export it, and this is going to be UI will be function which has that. Okay, so if you've noted is the UI functions are getting like out of hand. They are in this index.r file and they are kind of too much, so we are going to have them in a separate file. So we'll create another file. So I'm just going to call it ui.r. Yeah, and then we will copy every single UI function into that file. So copy all this, or is it cut, and then into UI, paste here, and then of course we need some of the imports. So we need all this HTML tools. So we come here and say box use all this. Yeah, and then now here all we need to do is, okay, we need to say from the UI, I want you to get me, I want you to get me, wait, I should only be getting the UI actually. Looks like I copy pasted the handler too. Should not have done that. Let's retain the handler. Let's retain the handler here for now. So for the handlers too, we can have them in a different file. Yeah, let's just have them in a different file. So again, I'm going to create a new file and I'll call it controllers. So we are going to create a new file called controllers, and then all the handlers will go there, right? So we'll open controllers, paste this, and then now on this controllers page, we are going to import all the UI functions we need. So I want you to box use, and from UI, I want you to get me UI for now. Yeah, that's it. Then we will go back to the index.r file. Now we need to import the controllers. So I'm saying from controllers, I want you to get me get. Yeah, this looks about right. Let's try this again, see if it works. Okay, so it's running and could not find function page. This is because in our controllers we're using page, but I didn't import it. In fact, I'm thinking let's just have it so that this rest subset send just sends the UI, and that's what we're importing here. But then we go to UI and we are saying at the end of the day, this is the content, and we are passing it to page. So page content. Okay, let's try this again. And now if we visit this, okay, so we are now running. All right, so that's working. Now, what do we need? Let's start working on the home page. The first thing is, this is going to be a div. Let's have it class container, right? And then inside of that container, I want to have a card. So I'm going to have tags subset another div class, which is going to be a card. And a card usually has a card body. So tags subset div class card body. A card body usually has a card title, right? So tags subset, let's call it, let's say what I'm thinking. In fact, let's wrap the title. Let's wrap the title in a div so that we have a title and a subtitle, right? So let's have another div which has the tag subset, let's use a h3, and we are going to say get things done, right? And after this, we are going to have a p tag, and in this p tag, we actually could have done a h1, and then here I do a h6. Yeah, h6, so that we have like the title and then the subtitle. So in this subtitle, we are going to say jatl, just the to-do list. Okay, yeah, this looks good to me. And then for these two, let's have them like side by side, right? So we are going to say class is will be deflex. We are going to use display flex and then justify content between, so that they are like side by side, but on the they are far from each other side by side. And then we are going to say flex wrap, so that if the space is small, you are going to wrap. Okay, Then of course we need to give classes to this. So for the title will be card title. All these are just bootstrap classes. And then for the subtitle, we are going to have card subtitle. Okay, this looks good to me. Let's check it out. So if I refresh this, okay, so now we have this. So it's a card, get things done, and then just another to-do list. So maybe I overdid with the H1 thing. Should probably be like H3. Yeah, H3 would have been good. So we come back and then change this to H3, and then for the card, maybe let's give it some margin across the y-axis, right? So we are going to say margin across the y-axis is 5, so that like it's not on the lining of the browser window, right? So we stop and rerun this again and reload. There we go. Okay, we are getting somewhere. So now we have get things done, and this is just another to-do list. Yeah, I think this is decent. Yeah, it's decent. Card subtitled. Maybe let's just confirm the classes. So let's search card, and we are going to search for subtitle. Yeah, card subtitle and then card title. Okay, I got it right. Okay, so now maybe I should have like they are not on the same level. One is way up there and then the other is down here, because one is a H3, the other is a H6. So what I need to do now is I just need to change the alignment, I guess. So I can use align baseline, I guess. So let's try. I want you to align baseline, align end. Okay, this is not going to work. Okay, since we are using deflex, I'm just going to say align items. Just going to say align items baseline. Aha, yeah, that works. Okay, so this is align items baseline. So we come here and we add a class to this. Okay, so it's the display is flex. We justify content between setting them far apart from each other, and then we are saying we are aligning the items baseline so that they are on the same level, and then we are flex wrapping. So this means that if a screen is too small, then the items are going to wrap. Okay, that's that. Now I think the next thing is rendering. We need to render our to-do items, right? So let's see how are we going to go about this. Do we use a table, or do we just do list items? I think I'll go with a table. Let's just go with a table, doesn't hurt. So what we will do is simple. I need a table here. So let's create a function to create a table. Okay, I got it. So up here, we are going to say function table will be, so this is going to be a function which takes in the data and produces an HTML table. But then this data, what is it? Is it a list or is it a data frame? I'll tell you, it's ideally supposed to be a data frame, but then these are data frames do not support HTML tags. So since HTML tags are shiny tag lists, so bizarre data frames do not support that in the rows. So that's going to be a problem. So in our case, we are going to use lists. And in fact, lists are like, they are pretty nice to work with, if I may say. So this data object will be a list. Okay, so this is going to be create HTML table, create HTML table at param data is going to be, let's do a named list, so that the names are going to be the column titles, and then of course whatever is in the items themselves is going to be the data to be rendered. So this is going to be a named list. It's required, and then it's going to return HTML tools tags, and we of course would like to export it. It's a, well, it's a function that can be used in many other pages. Okay, now let's say for example that the incoming data is the iris data frame. So let's first of all kill this, then start a new R session here. So what I'm saying is, let's assume that IR is the first 6 items of iris, right? We have them there. And I want this to be passed as a list where each column is an item in the list, right? So what we are going to do is have something along the lines of as list iris. So this is what is going to be passed into this table function. And now what? These are the columns, and then we have the data items inside. So since this is what is going to be passed, we also need to know how does HTML expect that data to be. So I am going to go to, I want you to search for table. And here we go. So an HTML table is supposed to be, we have the table, which of class table, and then we have the table head. After the table head, we have the table body, which has rows. So HTML tables go row by row. So you can see that we have the header, like in the header we have of course another row, and then in the body we have rows upon rows upon rows, right? This means if we start creating our function called tables, we are going to be looping, and the first thing I want us to loop upon will be, I want you to take that data and I want you to subset the first item. Now, when we take the data and subset the first item, since we are pretty sure that all the items are going to be of the same length. So when we say, I want you to subset this first item, this gets me all these. And now I am saying we want to find the sequence along those. So we are iterating over the rows. So the function is going to be a function of the row index. Inside the rows now, we need to iterate over the columns, right? Since each row has columns. So we are going to iterate again on the for the x will be, in this case, now we take sequence along the data itself. Now, when we take sequence along the data itself, it's taking, it's saying, like, I just want you to look at sepal length, sepal width, this. So if we say, for example, as list and then sequence along, see, this is like looping over the columns, right? So the function will be a function which takes the column index. And then now, what do we want, right? So we come here and we see that for each one of these, we need a table, a TD object. Like I'm guessing this is like cell data, table data, whichever, right? So this means here, when I do data subset this column index and then subset the row index, this is like a specific cell. So this one is supposed to be wrapped in tags subset TD. Okay. But then each of these ones, each of these TDs is supposed to be wrapped in a table row, a TR. So we come back here and we will say that this inner loop is wrapped in TRs. Okay. And then what happens to the TRs? So the TRs, all of them are wrapped in a T body, right? So it means that this is the TR. And for me to get the table, it's going to be tags subset. Oh, actually, this is not going to be the table. This is going to be the body. So T body will be tags subset T body. And then we pass in the TR, right? But before the TR, what do we have? Before we get, before you get to the T body, we need the table head, right? So the T head will be tags subset what? T head? Yeah, tags subset T head. And then we wrap all the column names inside of TH. So inside of the T head, we first have a table row. And in that table row, I want to have TH for all the names. So I'm just going to map, and the function will be tags subset TH. And then my data will be the names of data. So we have the T head, we have all that. So how does it fit together? So inside of the table, we have first of all the T head. So we are saying tags subset table. Of course, it's of class table. And then the first thing is the T head. The T head is followed by the T body. Okay, so this is the complete table function, and I'm guessing this is okay. We are going to test it right now by passing it to the card body. So we are going to call table. Then we'll do as list head of iris. So if we run this, this should correctly render like the iris table in HTML. Let's try. Okay, could not find function head. That's because, well, okay, you know what? Let me just go old school and do the first 6 rows. Okay, object iris. Wow. Oh god, this is from datasets. So okay, fine. From datasets, get me iris. Okay, another go. Okay, it seems to have worked. Let's view, and here we have it. So our table function is indeed working. Now let's make a bit of customizations to it. The first thing is I want on hover, I want to like see that I am hovering, right? So we come back here and find hover. So hoverable rows. So we are supposed to add the class table hover. Yeah, just to the table. So we come here and we go to the table function, and we are saying this is supposed to be table hover. And I think, what else do we need for our table? We need it to be hoverable. Since it's going to be a to-do list, I don't need it to be bordered. but hoverable sounds right. I think that's it. Okay, okay. Oh yeah, responsive. I need it to be responsive actually. So I'm going to search for responsive. Responsive table, always responsive. So for it to be responsive, I need to wrap the table tag in dot table responsive div. Okay, so we come here and we are saying I need to take all this, wrap it in tag subset div class table responsive, and we drop it there. So this means when the screen is a bit small, you can be able to scroll upwards or downwards. Okay, let's try. Okay, let's try making the screen small. Let's see if it works. Oh, there you go. So like you have this horizontal scroll bar. Yeah, for a start. I think that's good enough. Okay, so now we have the table, but then we didn't come here to render iris. What we need to render is our to-do list items, right? So now we get rid of iris. We don't need iris. What we need is the function called read all items. So from db, I want you to get me read all items, and then we come here. So the items are going to be read all items, right? And then for the table, actually maybe let's just say, yeah, that's fine, read all items. And then now in this table we are going to pass in as list those items. And let's try running this again. Okay, there we go. So now we have the ID and we have the item. Okay, I think this is good progress. This is not bad. So what's the next thing? Of course, we don't want to show the ID, but even before we think of removing the ID, let's add buttons, right? We need a button for editing and then another button for deleting this item, right? Well, any of the items. So this is supposed to be done for each of the items. So what we are going to do is, once we read these items, we are going to convert them to a list. And then I'm going to say items subset. Let's add a new element to items called action, and then item subset actions. Our action, this is going to be it's going to be a column across the IDs. Yeah, let's just do lapply. X will be items subset the ID, and then the function will be a function which takes in the item ID, right? So which takes in the ID and it returns the buttons. So we are going to say, I want you to return a tag list of 2 buttons, right? Actually, I could have just written a div. A tag list is okay. So we are going to do tags subset button. So class will be, of course, button. For this one, we are going to do button outline dark, and let's do button sm, like a small button sm. And yeah, then the label is going to be, well, the label is supposed to be edit in this case, but instead of the label, let's just have you know what, yeah, let's go for the label actually. Yeah, let's just go with the label. So it's going to have a label of edit, and then we'll have another button whose class will be button outline, danger, obviously button SM, and this one is going to be a delete button. Okay. Now what? We have the buttons. I feel like I'm missing something on this button. Oh, the type button. Then of course here type button, and that's it. In fact, if we just rerun this, now we should have the action column ready for us. Let's try this, and there you go. So now we have an edit and we have a delete button. Okay, so everything is coming on well. Now let's think. When we say edit, I'm thinking what we need. Okay, actually, just before we handle this, let's start with the creation. So the first thing in this card should be maybe like a way to create a new to-do item. So we need an input somewhere which you enter and then you submit and then you create a new item. Okay, so in the form we come here, then we're saying just after you enter the form before the table, I'm thinking maybe I should have this as a different card. Okay, I think we'll just have it as a different card. So that this first one will be like where you can enter your new item to create, and then this table will be rendered in the new card. Yeah. Let's just separate these so that this table will come afterwards, and this is going to be the existing items, right? So this is going to be the existing items, but first I need a new one here. So tags subset div, obviously class card, margin across the y-axis will be 5, tags subset div plus, this is going to be the card body, then let's just cut this so that it's the first thing, and then after that I want to have a form actually. So tags subset form, the encryption type of the form, we are just going to use a form URL encoded. So I'll go to form HTML tag, go to Mozilla, and then going to search for the encryption type, the enc type. So we take the X form URL encoded, which is the default one. Then the method, this is going to be a post, and the action, I want this to be posted on let's say this is going to go to /create. I'm thinking like this, if this goes to /create, you know what, let's just do it at slash, since it's like a post means I'm creating something, and since this is simple, let's just go to slash. Let's post the form to slash, and then inside of the form I will have an input. So tags subset input type will be text, value, no, let's talk about the name. The name of the input will be the item, just going to call it item, and then maybe let's have a placeholder, e.g. call mom, and this is going to be required. So required equals to NA. Then after the input, what I want is a submit button. So I'm going to have a tags subset button type will be submit, and then this is going to have the label of add add to do item, or is it create to do item? I'm just going to call it create. Yeah, this sounds about right. Okay, then for this one we are going to have tags subset div. So just the to-do list, that's totally fine. Okay, class is going to be deflex, justify content between, align items baseline, flex wrap, and then tags subset h3, add title, and this is going to be your to-do list, right? Tags subset, let's do h6. This is going to be the card subtitle, and we are saying for this one edit or delete your existing, edit or delete your items, your to-do items. Okay, I think this is okay. Let's preview. So we come here, reload, and there we go. So now we have an input here which has a create button. Okay, I think this is this is okay, but I was wondering why not just have this and this button, like they are kind of quote unquote merged. So we come to Bootstrap, and then we will check the default form control, how they do it. Pretty sure they have examples. Form overview. Not yet. Okay. Form control. What are those called? Okay, let's just check buttons. Button group maybe. Okay, here you have button group. I was thinking we can have, because there is an input group, I remember. It's right here. Okay, so what do we need? What do we need is button add-ons. So we need something of this sort. So we just copy this, then come here, and we are going to paste it here, and of course comment it out. So we need a div. So tags subset div class input group, and margin bottom is 3 for me. I'm not exactly sure if I need that. Okay, then we need the button. Okay, this was the first one. I need this fourth one. So basically input type text, and then class form control. Okay, class form control, and then we are going to have the area label. In my case, So let's have the area label. In my case, this is going to be new, okay, description of new to do item, description, new do item. And I think that's it. Then for the button, you're just going to have type button and then you give it the classes. Okay. Well, for me, it's type submit. Okay. Then class will be button outline, let's say primary. Okay, I think this is it. Okay, let's try that again. It should be looking a bit better now. Okay, so we have it. So you can enter your to-do list here. I don't know, this is the first one, and then you can of course click this to create it. Okay, so we have create, we have edit, of course read, and then we are deleting. Okay, so I think the minimal UI is ready, right? Yeah, so let's start with handling the creation, right? So when we create, we want this to be sent, we want the post request to be sent to slash, and then once it's sent there, our handler is going to respond with the new homepage, right? And I think creation is the easiest here. So we are going to go to, let's go to controllers. Then inside of controllers, we are going to say handle post at slash. So when handling post at slash, of course, you want this to be exported. So let's just say home post. This is a function of request and response. And then what I want to do is, first of all, I want to pass the data in the request. So in my case, the data is going to be pass form URL encoded, and let's import this function. So from ambiorix, I want you to get me this. So pass form URL encoded, and then we are passing in the request object. Okay, for now, let's just print that data, and then as a response, let's respond with the default home UI. And then of course, let's attach this function. So we go to index.r, and then from else we want home post from controllers, and then we attach it. So we are saying app, any post request to slash will be handled by home post. Okay, let's restart the application, and then let's try creating a new one, right? So let's just call it another one, and then we click on create. Okay, so we have an error must return a response, and that is because in my handler I should have res subset send UI. Okay, but at least we can see that it did print the item. But let's make sure we get this right. Confirm. Yeah, let's try again. New one and submit. So of course, since we are returning the default UI, you can see that by default the input is cleared, and then we have, you know, the existing inputs, I mean the existing items here. So we can see that the items, the list passed from the request is being printed. So now what we need is to put this item to store it in our database, right? And yeah, it's pretty that simple actually. So all we need to do is come and say, I want you to create item whose description is the data, right? And then what do we need? We need to import create item. So we are saying when you go to DB, I want you to get me several things. I want you to get me create item. We are obviously going to need delete item and update item. Okay. Okay. This sounds good. So, okay. Yeah, so I think this is all of home post. Currently, we are not even doing any data checks, but you should, so that when your data comes in after pass, actually I got it wrong here. It's supposed to be subset item. You should do validations on this item to make sure that it's one a string, yeah, etc, like it's not an empty string, you know, all that. But I'm not going to do all that. I just simply want this to be in the database. So I am going to restart this, to reload. Let's try oh, okay. So since I've reloaded and confirmed the form resubmission, the previous one, which was new one, was automatically added to the database. But let's try a new one. So let's try, so here we have call dad. Let's also call mom. Then press enter, and there you go. So the request is sent, ambiorix handles it and returns the new UI. You can also call Kazi, I guess. Enter, and there you go. So our creation is done. Like this is it. There is nothing more to the creating part. So now let's talk about this editing. How do we want the editing to be done? Well, there are two approaches. One, we can just have it give us a module, a model dialog, a pop-up, right? We can have it give us a pop-up and then the user can edit whatever that is. Two, we can just have it be done in like a new page, right? So I'm thinking, I think I'll just do it in the pop-up, in the model dialog. Yeah, I'll do it in the model dialog. Okay, so when this edit button is clicked, I want to pop up a model which shows this is the item you want to edit. Then you can, edit it. And I think that's it. And then the same for the delete. So when you click on delete, I just want you to confirm that you indeed want to delete this item. So we can actually start with the handlers. So we are saying handle put @/ and we of course want this to be exported. So this is going to be home put. It's a function which takes the request object and the response object. And what it does, first of all, obviously we are also going to use pass form URL encoded for the request, and we will be saying, I want you to update item. The ID, we are going to get it from that data, and now the new description will be the item data subset item, right? So we are saying this data object must come with the ID and the item. We'll figure this out as we go. So in response, I should just send the UI. You see how clean this gets? Like in response, I just want you to send the UI. And then we also have, I want you to handle delete @/. Of course, let's export it, and then this is going to be home delete, which is a function of request and response. In this case, we can as well just do, pass home URL encoded from the request, and then we are going to do delete item. We pass in the ID, which will be data subset ID, and we are going to send back the UI. Okay, so we have added home delete and home put. Let's go to index.r and attach those. So put requests as slash will be handled by home put, and then delete requests slash will be handled by home delete. Then of course I need to import them. So home put home delete. Okay. So this looks about right. So for the handlers, they are kind of ready, but there's only one way to know. We need to implement this functionality for editing and deleting. So the first thing is, when clicked, we need a model dialog, right? So I need to come to Bootstrap, show me the models. So we come to the models, and so you see, for the button that launches the model dialog, it will have database toggle, a model, and then a target, right? So it will have these two. So we'll just copy these two attributes, and then we will go to UI. Now in the UI, you remember there was a place we created those buttons. Where was it? Oh, it's actually here. So the edit and the delete buttons. So we are saying for the edit button, I need you to have these attributes. So first of all, don't worry about the values in the attributes. You just need to get them there. So we are saying I need you to have those attributes. So database toggle, I need you to be, when clicked, I want you to toggle a model, and then the target now should be the ID of the model, right? And for the ID of the model, I am going to go with something very simple here. So I'll just say, I want you to paste 0 hashtag, because I mean, that is the how we access the IDs. And I want you to start with, this is, let's do, this one is for editing. Let's do edit item. Yeah, edit. Let's go with edit underscore edit item. No, let's go with model edit item and two underscores, and then we pass in the ID. Okay, so that's for editing. And then for deleting, let's copy this. So for deleting, we'll have, I want you to toggle model delete item. Okay, now let's define those models because they currently aren't defined. What I want is, can we just have the models right after the buttons, right? So when I say I want you to toggle edit this model, let the model be right after the button that it's supposed to be like toggled on. So let's see, how do we create a model? So first of all, okay, so we have all this. Okay, so I'm going to copy all this. Can I have it as a separate, yeah, as a separate function? So let's copy that. And then I'm thinking, because, but I only have 2 places for this. So, okay, you know what? I'm just going to create a separate model function. Oh, good. Let's have edit model dialog, right? So here, edit model, edit model, and then we pass in the ID, the model ID. Then let's have the delete model, and then we pass in the delete model ID. So this means this is supposed to be edit model ID. Okay, so now the edit model ID will be something, then the delete model ID will of course be something, but down here I want to have, I think I'm complicating this. I wish I could have just, dumped the HTML there and moved on with my life. And that's what I'm going to do. So instead of, complicating all this, I'm literally going to create this model right here. And then we are going to say, I want this to be a tags subset if, okay. We are still going to need the edit model ID and the delete model ID variables. So the edit model ID will be this edit model ID. Then the delete model ID will be this. Okay. So what are we saying? We are saying the model for the editing will be a div plus model, let's say fade. The ID will be the edit model ID. We have to set the tab index to -1 and area labeled by, so this is labeled by example model label. Where is this going to be? Okay. So area labeled by, let's paste 0, the edit model ID is underscore label, then area hidden to true. Okay, then inside we have tags subset div plus model dialog and tags subset div plus model content and tags subset div plus model header. Inside of the header we'll have tags subset h1 plus is the model title, and the ID is the label. So the ID will be paste 0 edit model ID underscore label. Okay, so and this is after the h1. So after the h1 we have button, so tags subset button. This is type button, plus will be button close, then data bs dismiss will be model, because you want this button to be dismissing the model. Then area label is going to be close. Okay, then now after the model header, that's when we have the model body, right? Yeah, so after the model header we have a div. The class will be the model body. Now inside of the model body we can decide to have anything we want, right? But this is the general field. So when editing, what do I need to have here? When editing, I need to have, okay, let's think. When editing, I need to have an input with the current value, and then two buttons, one for canceling the operation and another one for submitting. So this means I will have a form. Yeah, so I will have a form here. So tags subset form, encryption type as usual. I want this to be xxx. Yeah, that one. Form URL encoded. Then the method, this is going to be a put request /, and it's going to have tags subset input, plus this is form control, and this input, the value will be the item description, right? The item, and then the name will be item. This is required. After that we need to have two buttons, so tags subset div, and we will have plus, we want them to be far apart, so deflex, justify content between, that's it. And then tags subset button type will be type button, and then this one is going to be the cancel button. So it's class, let's have button sm, button outline secondary. We could have just gone with danger. Then for the second one, tags subset button, this will be of type submit, since we want it to submit the form. The class will be btn/btnsm, then btn success. We'll just have it as save edits. Okay, so that's the edit model dialog. I think it's complete. I could be missing a few things, but I think the way it is, it will submit the edits as expected. Oh wait, when editing, when editing, we also we expect both the ID and the item, right? So since we expect both the ID and the item, that means, since here we have the ID, that means I need you to pass in the ID here. For the input, I see the value is the item, but we don't have that variable yet. That's okay. Let's have an extra input of type hidden, and the value of this one is going to be the ID, and the name will be the ID. Okay, I think this is it. Yeah. So now, how do I get item and how do I get ID, right? So I come to the top of the function. When calling this function, I'm only calling it on items subset ID. But then think about it. This function should be on both the ID and the item. This means I can switch this from an lapply to a map function. And this map function, well, map functions take an f, and then for the ID and the item, we need to pass in. We start with the ID, which will be items subset ID. Then the other one was the item itself. This is going to be items subset the description. Oh wait, it's item subset item actually, if I'm not wrong. That is what we said in our DB, right? Let's see. On the schema, we said ID and item. Yeah. So we just pass in the item subset ID and then the item subset item. And now that's how it becomes a function which takes the ID and the item. And then actually, that's it. Wait. Yeah, that's it. Now, if we run this, if there's an error, then we are definitely going to know. But ideally, it should submit that, and it should be like editable, right? Let's see though. Okay, I'm just going to get, and we have an error. Could not find function edit model. That's because I don't need it. And the delete model too. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so at least it's rendering now. First of all, let's check our browser for errors. Nope, we don't have any errors. Let's click on edit, but it's not popping out the model, right? So we have an error here. The error is saying cannot read properties of undefined backdrop. Just means that maybe my model wasn't well connected. Am I missing an ID somewhere? Let's see. So this is the edit model ID and this is the delete model ID. Yeah. I see what is happening. So I didn't need to have this hashtag here. What I need is for the database target, this is supposed to be paste 0, the hashtag, and then the edit model ID, and it's that simple. Yeah, that is what I was missing. So let's try this again. So reload, click edit, and there we go. So now we have it, but it looks bad. I thought I had something for the title. Let's see, for the title, I actually didn't have anything. Okay, so for the title, this is just going to be edit to do item. Okay, let's try this again. Reload, click edit, and there we go. So you have edit to do item, and then this is the item. Now let's put some spacing between the input and the buttons. So let's come here to the form, and you're just going to say margin top. We'll set it at 3. I think 3 should be good enough. Okay, so let's click edit again, and yeah, now we have some space. Okay, so we have this edit to do item, and in fact, can't I just make it to be vertically centered? Okay, this doesn't cancel the model dialog. I think I missed something on that, but let's see, vertically centered. Just going to say, oh, here we go. Vertically centered. For it to be vertically centered, we need to add model dialog centered model dialog. Okay, so model dialog centered. Then apparently the cancel button, oh, that's because it doesn't have the database dismiss model. So we copy it. So we say, so anytime when the cancel button is clicked, it should dismiss the model. Okay, let's give this another shot. Okay, so let's try edit. So first of all, it's vertically and horizontally centered. Then instead of new one, let's do new ones. Okay, new ones. And then first of all, can I cancel? Okay, then okay, if I come here again, can I save? Okay, so that did something. Oh, I am sending a put request, but then I learned some day ago that forms only support post. It's actually here. They only support post and get HTTP requests. So that means I should just make this a post. Which is very interesting. So for this form, since it can only support put or post, let's have the form, let's have it do a post, and let's have it do a post on slash item. Yeah, I'm just going to have it do a post on slash item. I'm thinking we have it do a post. Okay, let's have it do a post on slash the item ID. So like I want you to do a post on slash the item ID. Exactly, yeah, do a post on slash item ID, and then that means we go back to the controllers, and instead of put, let's handle a post at slash and then the ID, right? Then, well, we will pass the data, but we will also actually, I guess the data will have everything I need, but I can just do request subset params subset ID. And this should, if I just print the ID, this should be like the ID that I need to edit. Yeah. So this means when editing, I actually don't need to have the hidden input. Okay, fine. So this is not home post. This is okay, you know what? I'm just going to call it home put. That's terrible naming right there. Yeah. Yeah, so like we get the ID. So when doing this, we'll just let me just confirm ambiorix.dev, then go to the documentation, go to ambiorix, and I'm talking about the parameters. I want the request parameters. So to get the parameters, I need to do request subset params. Okay, I am doing well. Okay, so it is request subset params subset the ID. So this is fine. Then I want to update the item data subset item, and yeah, this is fine. But then since we are posting on /id, after it is done, what I want to do is a redirection. So I want to do res subset redirect, but before redirecting, I want to set the response status. So we set the status to 302, which indicates I want you to the page you're looking for was found, and I am redirecting you to, like, a new one. So I want you to redirect to slash, so that the user never has to find themselves in /id. Okay, I'm guessing, yeah, let me just confirm the syntax again. We are talking about redirection. So okay, I am okay in the response. Redirect. Okay, so we set the status, and then that is the path. Okay, so you come here, set this as the path. Okay, so this is home put, but it's really a post request. Yeah, I'll just have it like so. So I go to index, and then instead of a put request, this is going to be a post, and it's on slash, it's on a /:id. Like, I want you to get the ID parameter. Yeah, that's it. That's it. This should work. Let's try it. Actually, before I try it, let's go back to the UI and remove the hidden input. We no longer need this. Okay, let's give this a shot. Then we reload, we click on edit, new ones, and then save edits. And there you go. Ish, okay, that's pretty good. This worked like on, it was a one touch. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty proud. Call, call myself, save, and there we go. So the post request is handled, and then the redirection happens, right? Remember? So if you go to controllers, we are getting the ID from the request parameters, and then we are passing that form. Once we pass the form, of course, we get the description, which is like data subset item. So we update the item. After updating, we are setting the response status, and then we are redirecting the user to the home page. So once we redirect the user to the home page to slash, this is now handled by the function called homeget. So it comes back here. Okay, so okay, that was a one shot, and yeah, it was a pretty good one. So that worked. Now let's talk about deletion. Deletion is the remaining bit. So I want us to go to EUI. I am just going to copy over the model dialog, but this is like really bad idea. You shouldn't do it in production, but here we go. So I am going to copy this model dialog and paste it here. But now instead of edit, we are going to say this is going to be delete. This is going to be delete. This is going to be delete. Then for the label, confirm deletion. Yes, this is going to be confirm deletion. Then for the body, I am going to have tags subset p. You sure you want to delete? You sure you want to delete the selected item? And then do we need for the input we are passing the item, but for deletion I don't need to pass it as an input. What I need is to pass it as another tags subset p. Actually, I can just pass it as an unordered list, right? So I will say tags subset an unordered list, tags subset list item, and now the list item will have the item, and I will just say the class will be text muted. And then now for the input, I just want to say the value will be the ID, the name will be the ID. This is type hidden so that it is sent. Okay. And I think that's it. So for this one, cancel and proceed. Yeah, let's check how that looks. Okay, so let's reload, then click on delete. Doesn't do anything. Do we have an error? Yes, we do. So I think I butchered the model. Delete model ID. I think I made a mistake somewhere. Oh boy. Okay. Let's see. So we have this delete model ID, but the database target should be, we should be pasting, right? Should be paste 0 hashtag and that, right? Yeah. That's it. Okay, let's retry this. Delete. Now we have confirm deletion. Are you sure you want to delete the selected item? If I cancel, should disappear. Let's try deleting new one. So if I click on proceed, well, I get a 500 internal server error, meaning something, so parameter 2 does not have length 0. This is in the controllers and we are handling the delete. Oh, again, a form, an HTML form can't send a delete or a put request. It can only send a get or a put. Oh, I mean a get or a post. So that means we go back to our UI, and now we need to change the form. Oh, it's actually a post. Okay. It's a post. It's a post, right? And we are passing the ID. Wait, what? Pass form URL encoded. Okay. Oh, wait, what? Parameter 2 does not have length 0. Okay, let's see. So, okay, can I just print data? Just a second. This is supposed to be a form. No, it's supposed to be a post. So that means, okay, let's just have it. Oh God. This is, okay, you know what? I'll change something. I'll have this one. I want you to handle post at slash edit slash that, and then this one will be handle delete at slash delete slash id, right? Yeah, that's the only way. It's actually a post, though ideally I shouldn't have to do like this. Okay, so let's just go to the index.r file. Then for editing, it's slash what? Slash edit slash id. And then for delete, it's slash delete slash id. But this is also a post request. Wow. Yeah. Then we have to go now to the UI and update the forms. So for the forms, we are saying this is for deletions. So it is slash delete slash the ID. Then for this other form, it's for editing. So this is slash edit slash ID. Okay, so for the deletion, so then if I am doing that, I don't need this input at all. So we go to controllers. Then for the deletion, instead of passing, can actually just do request subset params subset id, and this should work. Okay, let's try this again. I'm going to localhost 3000. Okay, let's zoom this in for you. And then let's try deleting again. So we want to delete this one for road trip. Proceed. So, okay, let me see. Oh, it does the deletion, but now I didn't redirect. Okay, so we go to E controllers. I just don't want you to send this UI back. What I want you to do is set the status to 302, and then I want you to redirect to the home page. Okay, so let's try this again. So let's try deleting new ones. Proceed, and there we go. Delete call dad and delete call myself. What happens if we delete all the items? Ah, okay, no error and no error on the console. Okay, so I think this is fine. So we have like the basic functionality of a to-do list. So you can create a new to-do item. So a new to-do item here. Just click enter, and there you go. You can create another one, and another one, a newer one. Okay, so first of all, we do not need to render the ID. So we need to remove this ID from our table, right? So we will come to ui.r, and then just before rendering that table, so this is like where we are rendering the table. So it means after the action, you can just say items subset ID will be null. We don't need to render that, right? Okay, let's confirm. So reload. Okay, there we go. So now we try to add a new one, an even newer task, and it's working. So now we don't need to render the ID column. Okay, thinking, however, you can as well, make this to be title case, whichever you want. You can do a lot of like edits on this page, but that's all the functionality that we needed. In fact, you can just have this on the right side to have it. Actually, let me just do some of these things. So on the TD for the action, what we need to do, really, this is, I don't have to do this though. I don't need to, because the functionality is okay. If you like, you can do a lot of upgrades on the UI, but I think generally this is just fine. You have a place where you can create your to-do items, you can edit them. So let's say by groceries, save edits, and then you can delete. So we delete them, we delete another one, and it just works. So yeah, if you have followed up to this point, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you learned something. Yes, that's it, and have a good day.